Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us on this beautiful Monday. It'll be a little bit rainy this week, but we don't care because it's beautiful today. We're honored to have in studio State Senator Bill Heath of the District 31st of the great state of Georgia. And we invite your call, 678-601-TALK, 678-601-8255. You can also find us on Facebook Live. The News Talk website or the News Talk Facebook page. Of course, we're on AM 1060, FM 106.3, and find us online. It doesn't just there. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Steve.
It's great to have you with us. Thank you for coming in. Bill serves, as I said, District 31st, and let's just go through the committee assignments real quick before we jump into the topics today. Agricultural and Consumer Affairs, that's officio. Finance member, he's chairman of the Government Oversight Committee. That's good. So you're in charge of handling the waste, right?
That's about right.
And that's about right. In a word or two. Member of the Judiciary and Vice Chairman of Natural Resources and the Environment. Okay, very good. You were first elected to the House in 2003, a little while back. I was there, I remember it well, and then to the Senate in 2005. Well, again, thank you for coming in. There's a whole lot of bills I'd like to go through. We got a whole lot of topics today, so forgive us if we kind of run through a little bit quickly. But I kind of wanted to set a little bit of a theme today, because you've been in agriculture, I guess, pretty much all your life.
That's right.
And you are now.
Yes, sir.
So about 5-10 years ago, we used to talk a lot about the two Georgias, and we don't really talk about that anymore. But if you look at Metro Atlanta, it's growing, it's expanding, the numbers are growing, but yet the state, maybe not as much. And Metro is getting to the point of where, in its politics, its worldview, where I'm afraid it looks like it's going to dominate the state overall. Do you see it that way, or how do you see it?
You're right, Steve. That's exactly what's happening. Every 10 years we go through a reapportionment after the census and realign all the districts to have the equal number of people in each district. And every time we do that, Atlanta gains more legislators and rural Georgia loses legislators. So you're exactly right. What's
that mean for us long term, and as Georgia as being, I think agriculture is number one industry in the state?
Yeah, I think you're right. And Georgia's been a pretty good state, but long term, I don't think that bodes well. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand where their food and clothing comes from, and corn does not come out of a can.
It doesn't? Oh my word! So I thought food came from a grocery store.
Well, that's what a lot of other people think.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's something I think we all need to pay attention to, particularly for those of us in West Georgia where we have enjoyed a rural lifestyle and a rural heritage. Haralson, Carroll counties, just all of West Georgia.
Well, you're right, but it's in the last few decades, I mean, we've seen a lot of growth here, and frankly, a lot of the people that move into West Georgia are those that, of course, enjoy our lifestyle, but they're the ones that used to be further east from here, and they keep rolling out as the population increases in Atlanta and the lifestyles. And
yeah, a lot of those people are from other parts of the country. So
well, yeah, but they're coming to us.
I know. So the value system is not necessarily Georgia.
You're right.
And along those lines, I want to get into the rural broadband, which will be consistent with that. But before I forget, and we go on too much further, tell us about our new governor. What's it like to work with Brian Kemp?
It's a new day. It really is a breath of fresh air. Brian Kemp is a great guy. I was proud to have supported his campaign. He's a good down to earth businessman. He's been out there, worked hard, spent some time on a tractor, and not necessarily an ag tractor, but he did development work, and he really I think he has a good understanding for the values that Georgia has, and I've been real pleased at what I've seen out of our new governor.
You were close to the former governor, Sonny Perdue. Now he's agricultural secretary.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's fun to touch base with him from time to time.
How's he doing?
I think he's doing great. I think he really is enjoying his work. It's a big job, and I think from what I can sense, I mean, there's a lot of stress that goes along with it, but he seems to thrive in that environment, and I think he's doing a good job.
So Sonny Perdue and David Perdue and Brian Kemp, we've got pretty much some good influence on the president.
Seems like it.
Okay. Okay, let's kind of stick with this agricultural theme, rural broadband. Let's jump into a couple of bills here. And one reason I want to have you on, I think July 1st is when a lot of times bills go into effect, correct?
That's right. Normally they're July 1, January 1. Some will say upon the signature of the governor, but that's not often.
Recent, a lot of news stories about the need for rural broadband, and I would think that would be critical to, particularly for farmers in South Georgia or any farmer outside of the cities that needs high-speed connectivity. What does Senate Bill 2? I think it affects the EMCs.
Yeah, it just allows them to get into the broadband business. And Steve, just to kind of touch base on what you were talking about there, broadband is very much it's very important to everybody today, much like electricity or telephone was when they were rolling out, and we just don't have good access to broadband in the rural areas, and not even in West Georgia. In the city of Carrollton, there's some good high-speed connections, but very spotty, and once you get outside the city, and frankly, most people don't get what they're paying for.
Mm-hmm. So when you come back at a hard day's work in the fields and you can't get online with high-speed connectivity to do business, and that's a huge problem.
Steve, it's worse than that. Most of every piece of equipment you buy today doesn't come with a manual like it did 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's available online.
Yeah, you download
the service is all done electronically. Our world evolves around broadband connectivity.
And it hadn't been that long, actually. It's been, about 20 years since the changeover.
Well, that's right. And it's just like you here. A lot of your broadcast is carried digitally now.
Sure, absolutely. And it's and I haven't kept up personally. That's why I'm more and more dependent on everybody.
Well, just behave yourself when you're talking about people. They could be listening to you in New York City.
That's true, and they probably are. They're probably recording me. But anyway, all right. We're going to take a break. Come back, and I want to talk about. We got about 5 or 10 bills we're going to rush through and get an update on from State Senator Bill Heath of District 31st. But first, this word from Tanner Health System.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org. or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We're honored to have in studio Bill Heath. He's been around a while.
Steve, you're just full of it this morning.
I am. Well, I rest on the weekends, and Mondays I'm good to go, and then by Tuesday I'm just.
I'm glad there's at least one work day in the week.
I'm only good. That's so true. I'm only good for one day. Okay, we're talking about some legislation that passed, and let's go. I think you had the privilege of having the first bill passed in the whole friggin' session this year, the school bus bill. And if we're not all confused, straighten this out, because I got confused too. What is the current law It's Senate Bill number 25 that undid the last bill. And so what do we need to know about when and where to stop for school buses?
Well, the good thing is we put it back like it was for many years, and that is if you're meeting a school bus that's got its lights on, it's amber flashing lights or it's red flashing lights and stop signs out, the only time you're permitted to pass that bus is if there is a paved median or a concrete median or
grass median. Right.
Yes, grass.
Grass median.
Or a physical barrier there.
Okay.
So if it's just separated by a turn lane, you must stop, and that's for the safety of the kids. This got changed in a late night conference committee report year before last, and immediately one of my transportation directors reached out to me and said, y'all have really created a safety problem for the students. And
it had been the same way since 1954.
A long time.
I was born in 1954.
Man, that was a long time ago.
So a late night conference committee, I hear those are wild things.
You had better be careful.
Better be careful. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about, we were talking about rural broadband, so let's just kind of insert here Senate Bill 66. And I should have probably just attached that right to rural broadband, but that allows for small wireless facilities to go to poles.
Steve, I don't know that we'll see that in West Georgia anytime soon, but it is a technology where it's a small antenna. It's much like Wi-Fi, in that they don't reach near as far as the big antennas we're used to seeing, but they are high speed and they're small enough that they can mount them on power poles. And at least in the Atlanta area, the more populated areas, it's a good way to deploy the technology. I'm just hopeful that when these companies deploy that technology in Atlanta, they'll bring some of their outdated equipment out here and increase our access.
So 5G will be in the major metropolitan areas first.
Oh, yeah. Everything happens there first.
Yeah, okay.
Except for quality of life.
Amen. Tell it, brother. All right, Senate Bill is 77. It protects all monuments on private or public property and prohibits removing or concealing any monument or such property. Senate Bill 77. Sounds like a good idea.
It was a great idea. It came through the Government Oversight Committee, and we had a little difficulty with it. You know, there's a lot of people that want to take down our monuments and memorials from times past, and some of them will say, oh, we just want to put it in a warehouse for safekeeping, and then they lose them, a variety of things. And there's also been a lot of vandalism. So this addresses that and just says that, if you damage a memorial or monument, that you are responsible for 3 times the cost to replace it. Mm-hmm. Of course, a lot of these are irreplaceable.
Sure. You said it came from the Oversight Committee where you're chairman. Were you instrumental in this?
It did help it through the committee as best I could.
You can take all the monuments down, doesn't change the history.
No, and I really don't understand that. We tend to certain things we want to memorialize, and then other things we want to try to forget about. I don't really understand that concept, but I've tried to. Seemed like a good bill. I've gotten a lot of good comments on it since it passed, and it did come through the Government Oversight Committee.
Senate Bill 83 allows high schools to offer courses on Hebrew scriptures as well as Old and New Testaments. And tell us about that.
Well, I think that pretty much explains it. It is a permissive. It's permissive. Steve, you've seen it. We've had certain groups that come out here and want to complain about.
We've seen it a lot.
Whether somebody's praying in the schools or read a Bible verse or whatever, and it is look, our country, the principles that this country was founded on were based on biblical principles, and it's probably a good foundation for these students to learn and study some of that.
Underlying Judeo-Christian value system.
Right.
So, I mean, so many of our laws are derived from that.
They all are.
Yeah, exactly. So, sounds good. I think it also, one thing I wish I'd had more theological education in my early years. I wouldn't have been such a mess.
We won't go there, but yeah, I do think that's. Look, it helps you understand the way that the reason our government is set up the way that it is.
And the reason human nature is what it is, and the way communities and families should or are structured. So, sounds good. All right, moving along. I told you this would be rapid fire. It's not exactly lightning, but rapid fire. And you're pro Second Amendment, so we can use that terminology.
We can handle it.
We can handle it. Senate Bill 106. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, 106, Medicaid waivers. Now, this topic of Medicare, Medicaid from the state point of view is extremely complicated, in my opinion.
It's complicated in my opinion, and I don't know how much clarification I can add to it. I do know that the governor wanted some flexibility, and he asked for this, and we did get the bill passed. And look, I think he's working on this. We have got to keep the cost of government under control, and a large portion of our budget, both at the state level and the federal level, is spent on health care.
And Medicare and Medicaid is huge in terms of
big money.
I mean, it's incredibly big money.
And a lot of this is federal dollars that are passed through the state, and but we have to have the ability to make those dollars work as best as possible.
We use the term of your committee oversight. What kind of oversight does the state have on Medicaid and Medicare misuse, fraud, whatever?
Well, we've worked on the fraud issues. This is a complicated area. It's an area that I really can't speak in great detail on.
Going in the same sort of direction, let's see, House Bill 186, Certificate of Needs. That's how hospitals and medical facilities are permitted. And staying with our agricultural or rural theme, this is incredibly important for our rural hospitals.
It is, and our local hospital here has made a lot of expansion and doing a great job, but every time they want to do something, they want to build a parking deck, they got to get a certificate of need on it, and it was a touchy topic. It was interesting. I do remember years ago when the hospitals were complaining about the red tape of CON, but they seem to enjoy it a little bit better now.
And this bill, too, takes effect July 2nd. All right, we're going to take another break. We're going to come back and talk about the heartbeat bill, education, and a whole lot more with State Senator Bill Heath. But first, this word from, guess who? Tanner Health System.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama. Because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Good morning, welcome back. We're having a good time. It's Monday morning on the Community Voice. State Senator Bill Heath is in the house. He's from District 31, which is Harrelson, Paulding, and Polk. the friendly county or something like that. I can't remember what their motto is, but something like that.
They are friendly.
No, it's friendly folks. I think that's it. Yeah, friendly folks in Polk or something like that. Let's talk. Half the budget or more is dedicated to education. And we saw some headlines recently that all teachers, not all teachers, virtually all teachers are getting like a $3,000 raise. So
Right.
so basically education over the years has become more and more controlled, influenced by the state. So where are we with education from a state perspective?
Steve, I'll tell you something interesting about that. And I've struggled. I could not tell you, as a school teacher employed by the local school system or employed by the state, or the state employees
Or the state.
or county city employees. But they have lobbied for and did receive this year a $3,000 pay raise, and that was spread pretty widely. It's very interesting. I think since we passed that, I have gotten a thank you from 3 teachers, I think. But I'm sure that they're appreciative. They just hadn't heard from them.
I heard the other day that they were having a lot of turnover with teachers.
I'm sure we do. Look, I wouldn't want the job, but I'm glad we've got people who are committed to pouring into our young folks and trying to build a future generation.
How much unnecessary interference is the state creating for local educators?
I think it creates a lot of interference. The problem is we put so much money into it, it would be foolish for us not to say, here are the things that we expect from you, and here, create some accountability for spending that much money. But I do know that educators spend a lot of their time complying with different rules and regulations, and it seems like we never get rid of them. We just add more.
It's not good for the kids.
It's not good for the kids. And the other thing about education is a long-term process. You can't make a change this year and come back next year and say, oh, well, that didn't work, or it did work, because many of those changes takes years to see the effect of them.
Again, with our kind of rural, I'm not familiar with this, and you may not be either, I'm not sure, but there was a House Bill 213, which I think passed, for hemp farming.
Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Why?
Well, why do we need it? It would be the first question.
Well, what exactly is it? Are we growing
hemp?
Well, yeah. What is
hemp? I asked that question of the quote experts. I said, "What's the difference in hemp and marijuana?" And this PhD, I don't remember where he was from. I don't remember his name at the time. He said, "You couldn't tell the difference." He said, "It'd take an expert to tell the difference." Well, the bottom line, as I understand it, Steve, hemp is intended to be low in THC, the part that makes you high, the bill allows you to grow hemp. Hemp was used back in the early days, rope and sails, and it's a source of fiber. But there are groups of people who have decided that CBD, the oil that you can get from this plant, is solve all the ills, and so they're pushing for that. It's highly regulated. Supposedly they're going to come out and test it for THC, and if it tests above a certain level, then you got to retest, and above another level, you got to destroy it. I asked them, do you test the whole plant or just the buds? As I understand it, it's the buds on the marijuana plant that you get the good stuff from, and I'm not sure what percentage that makes up of the plant. So I was a little spooky about the bill, but
it did
pass.
It passed, so now you can legally grow hemp. You
can. There's a process to go through, but we're headed that way.
Okay, we're going to run out of time, and we probably ought to hold you over, but we won't.
Yeah, well, that's overtime pay.
Yeah, there you go. And that's big bucks. Let me tell you. That's why. Anyway, we hope that Alyssa Milano is listening, because now we're going to ask you about the heartbeat bill, House Bill 481. It passed. Governor Kemp signed it, and of course, it's got a lot of publicity. Tell us about your thoughts on it.
Steve, I am fully supportive. I have been supportive. I really, while I try to understand why people believe and think the way they do, I have a hard time understanding the opposition to this bill. But essentially what the bill does is establish personhood for that infant that's being carried by the mother when you can detect a heartbeat. And that's the measure we use to determine the end of life. I don't know how you could argue with using that to determine the beginning of life.
Within the pro-life community, the debate has been the exceptions, rape or incest.
Right.
And to me, I think the pro-life community has, in effect, lost the debate, because if you qualify sanctity of human life for how the child was conceived, then you're saying that, well, it's we believe in the sanctity of human life except for these couple of cases. How do you approach those exceptions?
Steve, I mean, we had the Roe v. Wade decision that was a massive turn as I see it, but most of our laws, we didn't get to where we are today overnight. It was an incremental process, and so I think we're incrementally, hopefully reversing part of that. There's a lot of new technology today. When Roe v. Wade was passed, we didn't have the technology that we've got today, and so we're using that kind of technology, or using technology in a lot of ways today, like DNA and a lot of other issues. And I think anybody that denies that that's a living human being prior to birth is just either they're not thinking or they're just foolish.
So are you concerned, upset about Alyssa Milano and Hollywood actors and celebrities saying they're not coming to Georgia? Does that bother you?
I won't miss her. And Steve, the state pursued the movie industry, and we pursued it at a time when others were turning away from it, and I think that it has created a lot of jobs. But frankly, I think our values are more important than the dollars, and so it'd be all right with me if Melissa stays out in Hollywood.
Well, we certainly don't want to have to pay you overtime pay for staying over, and I've got about 7 more questions, so it's a dilemma.
It is a dilemma. That's why they pay you the big bucks, Steve.
Yeah, that's why I get the big bucks, as you know. But anyway, thank you for coming in. And if people want to contact you, they have any questions or concerns, how should they go about it?
Bill Heath at billheath.net is the best way, and that way I can get back to you and try to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Are you optimistic about the future for Georgia and the country?
I am optimistic about I still think that we've got a lot of people that have good values and really care about this country and this state, and it does bring optimism.
All right. Again, our gratitude to State Senator Bill Heath, District 31, for coming in. He loves being on the radio, and and so I'm sure we'll have him back many more times, hopefully at least a couple times before the next session.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. Thank you for listening. We thank Tanner Health System always for their sponsorship. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.